Hi everybody, it's Mallory Smythe with Endow. For the past 15 weeks, I have been just in the throes of first trimester pregnancy, just coming out of it, and totally exhausted, not wanting to do anything, and in doing so, I've been watching a show called The Call of the Midwife. Now, the show is about nurses and sisters who are serving women in a poor district of London during the 50s, helping them to have and care for their babies. Now, in a recent episode that I was watching, there's a woman who's about to have a baby and she is publicly and morally shamed by her husband. And so everybody in the town finds out about what happened, even though it's really not her fault, it's his. And she walks into a church function and all of the women just stop and stare at her. Now, the nurse, trying to make things better, tells the women not to be so mean-spirited. And she says, after all, didn't Jesus love everyone, even the sinners? And she looks over to the priest and he says, especially the sinners. Now, this scene struck me so deeply for two reasons. One is that I have been following the Lord for years. I met him at the end of college. And I fell in love with him. I've been reading scripture, trying to pray more, know my faith, evangelize, all the things. And in doing so, sometimes I get what I call spiritual amnesia. And I forget where I came from. I forget that it was me in the darker places of my life, far from God, that needed him so desperately. And it was him that reached out and pulled me out of that. I was as far from him as anyone else was. I was as dead in my sin as anyone else was, and it was in his grace and his mercy that he brought me out of it. And sometimes, in my righteousness, I forget that. And so I wonder how many times I'm like those women who just stop and stare and say, Jesus loved even the sinners, forgetting that I'm one of them. Forgetting that Jesus is for everyone, that the church is universal, and that it is for everyone. And that was the second thing that I thought of, is that the church really is universal, and maybe we can forget that sometimes. I was in Philadelphia whenever my husband and I were dating, and we were at daily mass downtown, and I remember being struck by the amount of diversity there. I could see that there were women who were living lives that were shameful, that were living in shame. I could see that there was poverty. I could see that there were businessmen there, that there were just people from every walk of life, every color. And it was so good because that's what the church is for. The church's doors are open to bring the message and the gospel and the mercy of Jesus Christ to every single person, no matter where they come from. The mercy is there. The beauty is there. The same for me as for someone else. And so as we're coming into August and we're going to be going into September, all the things are going to start again. School's going to start again. The ministry fairs are going to start up. And for those of us who are living our lives within the folds of the church, I wonder if there's something that a new way that we can be living out our faith. Right? For my own self, I'm challenging myself, how do I need to be going further? And challenging myself more to recognize how desperately I need God's mercy and how I need to know him more. Is there a new way I can be praying? Is there a new way I can be reading scripture or digesting it better? Is there a new service that I'm called to? And then on the other side, how am I interacting with the people in my life? Have I written people off? Feeling like they're so far from God that his mercy is beyond them? Maybe they just need an invitation. Maybe they just need to be told about the mercy of God. And maybe I, in my own comfort, can step out of it and be the one to tell them, knowing that the church is there to welcome them and to bring them into his mercy, into his beauty. Because Jesus didn't love even the sinners. We're all sinners. And I think sometimes I know I can forget that. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and I challenge you to just think about that in your own heart and your own life. Where do you see yourself? And where do you see other people whenever it comes to knowing God? If you want to know more about Jesus Christ and his church, you can dive into an Endow study at www.endowgroups.org, or you can connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Endow Groups. Have a great week.